Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Ottawa Senators and how they could prove me wrong by the end of the season, and also looking at how good of a year it could be for them by the end of the campaign. But before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. Being said, let's get on into it. So Ottawa for a while now has been a team that hasn't made the playoffs. That's not really anything new in terms of news, but I also think that it's not really been too new in terms of us expecting them just not to be there by the end of the year. However, this year looks like things could be different, and this team might actually go out to the playoffs and make it in a way that I really didn't expect, and it's going to be fun. So we'll be getting on into that and seeing exactly what's going on in Canada's capital. Well, the answer is a lot more winning than we're used to in recent years. They have got a great points percentage at home too, by the way. They have 16 wins in 25 games and are top 10 in the league for points percentage at home, so that is fantastic. And this is really just good news for a team that has got out to a slow start. I know the hockey guy did a video, I think it was last season or the start of this season, talking about how the Senators consistently get out of the gates very slow and then have to just work themselves out of a hole, which they never really do. However, things have been good for them in that regard this year, where they've had that long run of sustained periods of success to elevate them in the standings. They had a period at the start of December where over a 9-game run they had 8 wins, and then they ended up winning 5 out of 6. And then they're now on a 5-game winning streak as they just recently beat the Nashville Predators. There has been, some moments where you started to wonder a little bit, are they going to fade away? After they had won 8 out of 9, they ended up losing like 5 out of 6. And that is where I started to say, even on here in a video, yeah, I think the Sens are going to where we kind of see them usually, where the hope is fading and the year is done. But they've been able to flip the narrative in that regard and then battle through that adversity and give us those 5 out of 6 wins and then the 5-game winning streak that we've seen after that little rut, and that is really important for this team. And this kind of circles back to how this could be a different year for them, not only in this regard, but in the fact that they could finish higher in the standings, much higher than I thought they'd be, as currently they are 3rd in the division, and this would be the first time that they finished top 3 in the division since 2017. I'm not saying that this year will necessarily be better than 2017 because that team ended up going on to the Eastern Conference Final. However, I will say this would be a really good year and a step forward for them in this regard. Instead of just being a team that is relying on being the best of the 2 wildcard spots, saying no, we are safe and secure in the fact that we were top 3 in our division, which could be a good stepping stone for them in the future for possible playoff appearances in the coming years to establish themselves as a top team, not only in their division but in the conference, and saying we are a force to be reckoned with. I don't know, maybe we are getting ahead of ourselves here, but this is still something where they are on pace to kind of be better than they've been in 6, 7, 8 years, somewhere around there. But while teams like the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning have really faltered over the course of the year and look like they actually might miss the playoffs this season, you have a team in Ottawa that is now top 3 in their division, setting the stage for something that could actually be very, very interesting here, and that would be, again, something I wouldn't really expect. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators playing each other in the first round as a 2 and the 3 seed in the Atlantic Division. This would be a really, really fun series for a variety of reasons. Obviously, these two teams played each other 3 times in 4 years in the early 2000s in the playoffs, so you'd have that kind of renewed sense of rivalry there. And then also as well, too, you would have the 2 teams in Ontario playing each other in the postseason, I believe for the first time since 2004, which would also, again, just be kind of neat to see those 2 provincial rivals go at it, especially when the Sens really have kind of had a gap between them and Toronto in recent years. But I think the third and most exciting reason in that regard, and which would just be so shocking, would be that we could possibly see Ottawa with this younger group go out there and knock off the Maple Leafs in the first round and really add to what's been kind of a decade of misery for Maple Leafs fans. And I think it would just be very strange because then you would see the Maple Leafs fans just go in absolute chaos and anarchy, talking about how the Sens were able to kind of do a rebuild in the time that all this has gone down, and then beating them and upsetting them in the first round. And it would just be really fun in that regard, considering all the time that's happened since then. I graduated high school, I got married, I graduated college, I bought a house, all since the Senators last made the playoffs. But then in the blink of an eye, they could go out there and very well beat a side led by Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and all these guys. And it would just be, again, one of those things that say, or makes you say, we love hockey. And I think one of the things that actually would be kind of neat in this regard, going further than this, is the fact that in what's been a crazy year for the Senators, They're only 2 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs for second in the division, so there may be a world where the Sens go out and are able to have home ice advantage against the Leafs in this series and then go on to possibly win that series. Again, in front of the crowd would be great, on the road would also be great, and for whoever wins that series, it could be also nice too, because of the fact you'd have a lot less travel compared to some other teams. You might be set up again for a nice run of the conference finals, and for a team like the Senators right now that have really been trying to find any sustained success, a playoff appearance and a trip to the Eastern Conference Final for the first time since 2017 would be hugely and widely welcomed and be maybe something that supercharges them for the future, again as a potential top 3 team in the division, while also making other people in Ontario very unhappy. And theoretically, this would absolutely be crazy. They aren't too far away from the Florida Panthers. There is a gap, and I believe they played more games than the Panthers. But how wild would it be if Ottawa ended up going out there and winning the Atlantic? I can safely say that, I didn't expect that, considering I didn't even expect them to make the playoffs. But again, maybe this is where things just get crazy this year. So as I go to close out this video, I will just say that I'm looking very forward to seeing how this year will close out, especially out east, as there are 3 teams that are really probably not expected teams to make the playoffs this year. Ottawa, Detroit, and Columbus being those sides. 2 of those have longer playoff droughts. Columbus is getting on, close to 5 years. So they've also had a little bit of time between their last playoff appearance as well too. So 3 teams taking up 8 spots out east that you maybe wouldn't have expected, I think is a really great storyline, as we've had enough of Boston and Tampa Bay in the regards of occupying playoff spots. If they're in it, no problem for me, because again, I like just talking about hockey. But I think for a lot of people that are looking for some new stories, those would be 3 really great stories in that regard for the playoffs. Out west, I think really only Calgary is a true major surprise. Minnesota maybe, but I think we all kind of thought they would kind of rebound a little bit and they'd be less injury prone. Obviously you would say that this is going to be a weird year, I think, in regards to how the playoffs could shake up, especially out east. But that's why it's exciting. And I think as well too, we are seeing a unfortunate situation for Ottawa where Detroit is hot on their heels, but for us as fans, we're excited because the Red Wings, I think, have won 14 out of their past 19 games, have 2 win streaks of at least 6 games. And if it wasn't for Ottawa going on a hot run right now, I think the Red Wings would kind of again be in that spot where they would be passing them up. But either way, the Senators are in a good spot to at least finish with their best year since 2017. And if things are going how they have been as of late, maybe even better, maybe they crack 100 points. And again, if they make it to the playoffs and they are able to have a series like Toronto, where they have that factor of Toronto just kind of falling short and less travel, maybe, just maybe, we again would see people's brackets busted and the Sens go on a bit of a run. How crazy would it be if they ended up going on to the Stanley Cup final? I know that is a little bit crazy, maybe too far-fetched in that regard. That's kind of the point of today's video. I can be wrong, as it looks like I probably will be with the Sens, and I think a lot of other people could be wrong as well too for Ottawa if they really go on that heater. So anyway, what are your thoughts for the Ottawa Senators for this season? Do you think they make the playoffs? Where do you think they'll finish in that positioning, wildcard division? And do you think they'd be able to knock off a team in an upset in the first round? Who would it be and why? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.